Hello everyone and welcome to my yet another exciting lecture of managing human resource. Before I go on with the next topic, I would like to recapitalize as to what we did in the last one. We know that we have been talking about performance appraisal. Performance appraisal is nothing but it's just appraising the work that has been done by an employee over the period of time, just to demarcate or bring out the difference between the most efficient and the inefficient people, or the productive or the less productive people. Now my dear friends, the topic that I am going to cover today is again the extension of the same topic, that is performance appraisal. This is part 2. So my module on managing human resource or human resource management, it comprises of various topics that I have talked about. But one of the most pertinent topic is related with the performance appraisal, because with the help of performance appraisal we can come to know whether the person has performed up to the expectation of the company or whether he has not performed. And definitely performance appraisal tells us what has been the performance given by the people over the period of time, or what actions have to be taken by the management in the coming course of time. So let's proceed with this performance appraisal. Now we know that there are different steps that I will be talking about the performance appraisal. But my dear friends, before we go on or we delve deep down into that, I would like to tell you that there are three things. There are certain things which have to be borne in mind before the appraisal, during the appraisal and after the appraisal. So as you can see on the screen also, that when we are conducting a performance appraisal, what are the things that have to be done before the appraisal? For example, the appreciation and criticisms are important when supported by example and facts and figures. Now, whenever we are talking about the performance appraisal, lot of groundwork has to be done by the management or by the HR department. So naturally, we will not be able to take any decision until unless we do not have the right information at our disposal. So before the appraisal starts or before the interaction starts, naturally lot of work has to be compiled, and it is in the form of the data that we have to collect. Then as you can see that before the appraisal, we are talking about the before the appraisal. So here, review previous goals. For the purpose of appraisal, previous objectives must be used to evaluate the performances. Now we all know, why are we performing? Simple question, why are we performing? We are performing for the purpose of the attainment of the goals. So naturally the goals have to be very crystal clear in the minds of the people, only then they will be able to attain it. So how do we actually make it out whether the person has performed well or whether the person has not performed well? So naturally it is with the help of the previous goals that were established by the company. Then we should get information about the ratee, people with whom he or she works, as they will have better idea and we can get examples of the performances. Now we know that it's very common in common parlance also. People behave differently in different situations. So if when it comes the performance time or the appraisal time, so people will be behaving differently. So what is best for the company or what is best for the organization is that we understand about the ratee. Whom are we going to rate? Who's the person whose performance is going to get evaluated? Let's collect some information about that person also. So my dear friends, it is very important to know about the ratee to whom we are going to appraise, because people behave differently in different situations. This is very obvious. So before we start with the appraisal, we should have a perfect idea about how the person is, or we can get to know more things about the ratee from the peer group or maybe from the supervisors or maybe the subordinates. Then proper planning has to be done in advance so that we can deliver that we want to do it properly. So when we are talking about in terms of planning, so naturally planning basically means where we are and where we want to be. So once we are talking about the performance appraisal, we have to do the entire planning. That means the managers or the individuals, they get together for the performance planning meeting. There can be lot of brainstorming sessions that can go on, and then they decide that which objectives they will be achieving during a specified time period. So when we know that okay, certain objectives they have to be obtained within that time period, so they will be acting accordingly. So planning in terms of a determination of the goals that have to be attained and how those goals or projects will get completed, the discussion can go on regarding that only. So basically here in the case of performance planning also we can say that there are discussions which are related with the individual development plans, that how an individual is going to perform in coming days. Then we see that prepare administrative detail. Like before we go ahead with the planning, we have to understand that the administrative details have to be complete. For example, proper decision related to time, devote time for the better output, proper selection of location, it can be conference room, it can be office, information to the employees, so that they can come prepared. My dear friends, that when we have this performance appraisal, what happens is that we have one-to-one interaction with the immediate boss. So it is very essential that during the time of interview, or maybe that during the time of interaction we can call it, there can be certain feedbacks that can be given. So at times they can be positive feedbacks, at times they can be negative feedbacks. So whenever there are positive feedbacks, so naturally positive feedbacks can be given at any point of time, but when it comes to the negative feedback, it has to be given in private. So a decision has to be taken by the management as to the related to the location of the place where they are going to have the interaction. So it can be the office or it can be the conference room, and then of course the ratee should also be well aware that today or tomorrow I am going to face the manager, so that the ratee also comes prepared. Now this was before the appraisal. Now what happens is during the appraisal. So when we talk about the during the appraisal, here we need to have an agenda for the meeting, we need to have a proper agenda for the meeting, we have to give a brief about the agenda that will be followed for the entire session. So this session can be one-to-one, it can be a group session, but ideally it is a one-to-one session that we have, where we have got the rater, where we have got the ratee, and where we have got the rating process, where the entire process of performance appraisal shall be taking place. So here definitely since we should have a proper agenda, what is more desirable is that there should be proper communication. That means here the rater and the ratee, they should listen to each other very properly, because the rater will have something to ask and the ratee will also have something to tell. So here the encouragement is always made to the two-way communication. It is not just one-way communication that the manager or the HR executive or the personnel or maybe the supervisor or whosoever is doing the performance appraisal is only communicating. So it is always that two-way communication is always encouraged, and then the rater should always ask that how they improve their performance. See, ultimately the main aim of any performance appraisal is to bring about a change in the behavior pattern. As I told you earlier also, that the main aim of performance appraisal is not to degrade anyone or to demoralize anyone, but of course to bring about a change in the behavior pattern. And naturally, because why are we willing to have that kind of behavior pattern? Reason being, we want the goals to be attained at any cost. So here whenever the appraisal is taking place, maybe in a fortnightly or maybe 6 monthly or annually, when both the parties, the rater and the ratee, they sit across the table to discuss the various aspects of the performance. So rater will always ask that what you can do best, or what kind of support you seek from the management to attain the goals. And supposing if the ratee has already performed exemplary, then nothing like that, then the person gets motivated in the form of incentives or maybe other ways of motivating the person. But in case if the person is not up to the mark, then definitely there is a healthy discussion that takes place between the rater and the ratee. Then ask them where they are lacking and what support they seek from the company, and ask for the feedback on the appraisal section. Now, if you all remember, there is always a portion of self-appraisal. So if you are working in any of the organization, if you are working in any university or any firm or anywhere, at certain point of time you are supposed to fill up a self-appraisal form, where you are appraising yourself as to how you have performed over a period of time, maybe 6 monthly or maybe annually. So whenever the performance appraisal is taking place, so there is an interaction between the rater and ratee, and they are trying to find out where are the loopholes, what are the hindrances, or what are the bottlenecks, and how these bottlenecks they can be overcome. Then rater should be focused related to performances and keep summarizing in between to ensure agreement. Now this is very essential. What we are talking about the agreement in the sense that like over the period of time the person has performed, so the nodding of yes has to come from the ratee also. Okay, you have been performing like this, you did something like this, you did something very good, but here you did not do anything. So that kind of healthy interaction has to take place, and the agreement from the ratee has to come, and this would be ensured by the rater only. Then rater should tell the employees what is expected from him and the areas of the improvement. I told you, my dear friends, that the main purpose of performance appraisal is to bring about a change in the behavior pattern. So the purpose is not to churn the person out of the company or just kick out the person out of the company, but to see that okay, the person has the capacity, the person has the capability to perform better, and how he can contribute best to the attainment of the goals if he is falling short of the attainment of the goals. Then be open for everything. Here it says that be versatile, open-minded if you hear things that cause you to change your opinion. So here what is more important is that both the rater and the ratee, they should sit with the open-mindedness, and they all know that they are chasing the common objectives which are very specific or which are very smart, that is specific, measurable, attainable, result focused, time oriented. So they know that they have to attain the objectives in a short span of time. So what best they can do to contribute to the attainment of the goals, that is more important. And then everyone should be ready to support each other. When I say open-mindedness, so basically what I am trying to tell is that okay, the management or the supervisor or the people or the representative from the management, they should always extend the best possible support to the people, so that at any point of time they are facing with any kind of bottlenecks or any hindrances or any kind of problems, so they can be sorted out at the earliest, which can give an ease or comfort zone to the employee to perform better for the attainment of the goals. Now during the appraisal process also, all these charts, my dear friends, they are from my own book also, from HRM by Dr. Rakhi. So these charts are all taken by me only from my book. So when we talk about the evaluation process, now during the process, start with the positive note about the things that were done well. Now we all know that we all know very well that if anyone is going for an interview, so when you are going appearing for an interview or going for an interview, the interview doesn't ask you the heavy questions right in the beginning. They will not throw the heavy questions at the starting of the interview. They'll take some time, they'll make you comfortable, and they'll make you comfortable by asking very easy questions. So whenever the appraisal is taking place, so this is the skill of the rater to decide how he or she starts with the appraisal interview, or during the interview how he interacts. So generally the best way or best practice is to start on with the very positive things, because everybody does something good or something bad. So definitely we should always start off with the positive things or the things that have been done well by the employee. Then follow this with areas that need improvement and a plan how to address them. So naturally we know that we are talking about the shortfalls, where the person is actually lacking. If the person has already performed well, nothing like that. We can only motivate the person to perform better in future times. But if the person has not performed well over the period of time, so we are asking that how that improvement can come. So does the rater or the ratee, rather, I stand corrected, the ratee wants any kind of support from the management? If yes, then what kind of support they are anticipating, so that the management can live up to the expectation of the ratee. Then conclude with a positive note which shows the desire to help improve, grow, excel and perform. See my dear friends, these four words are very important. Improve, because we are trying to improve the behavior. Grow, because we are trying to give them the growth opportunities in the company. Excel, because once you grow, naturally you will be excelling in your careers and perform better. So when you are performing better, you are becoming better and better. Naturally the positivity or the positive aspects of performing well in a company, they will automatically fall in line. Then making promises. Rater should not make false promises which are beyond his control. Now this is very essential. People, they talk about false promises, but if they are not able to fulfill those promises, then they are of no use. So any kind of promises which are being made by the rater, they have to be the genuine one, and they are the ones that okay, the management will be able to keep up their promises to the ratee. Maybe these promises, they can be in terms of performance, in terms of incentives, in terms of support, or in terms of any kind of help that the ratee is asking for. Then it can be related to the hike in salary, increment, transfer, promotion. These are the things they should only make the promises if they are under the control of the person. Then the rater should focus on few areas that can make differences. Encouragement should be given to continue and grow in the areas of strength. Build SMART goals. Now when I told you what is the meaning of SMART, so SMART goals, basically it relates to that the goals have to be quite specific. They have to be measurable. M is basically measurable. The goals are such that they can be measured easily. A is for attainable. They should not be any kind of hypothetical goals that should be asked by the management. R is basically related with result focus. Of course, all the efforts, they should be guided towards getting some kind of result. And T is basically time frame. So any objective which has to be attained, it has to be within the specific time period. So naturally the goals have to be reviewed by the rater in front of the ratee, and the promises have to be seek that okay, within the time span the results will be attained which can be measured easily, and they have to be quite specific enough to the related with the overall objective of the company. Now, when we have this after the appraisal, so whatever I just discussed with you, it was all during the process or during the appraisal. Now, what happens is after the appraisal. Now, after the appraisal, the first is the work is related with the administration. Please mind it, this is again from my book only, HRM by Dr. Rakhi. So here this administration says that ensure all the paperwork is complete, ratee's signature should be there where required. Now when we talk about the ratee's signature, why are we talking or why are we emphasizing too much on the ratee's signature? Simple reason being because we are taking agreements from the ratee that in times to come you will be performing like this, or you have performed something like this in the previous time period or whatever it is. So signature is of paramount importance. So we cannot dare to miss the signature of the ratee wherever it is required. So entire paperwork has to be complete, the entire process has to be complete. Then remember, mark the next date of appraisal session with the person. So here when we say that the mark the next date for the appraisal session basically means time period is being given to the ratee to improve upon his or her performance if the person is not performing well. Then follow up on agreements made during the appraisal. So a follow up is basically okay, whatever the agreements have been made between the rater and the ratee, they have to be looked upon by the management. And then learnings. Proper reviews to be given related with what you came to know about the employee. So how was the employee, or how was the ratee, what was the record system, how the person has been performing, rater management style, is the style biased, is the style genuine, is the style transparent, and the entire process has to be taken into cognizance and entire paperwork has to be complete. Now, my dear friends, the most important part, so this was I just discussed things related in a bird's eye view as to what things happened before the appraisal, during the appraisal, or maybe after the appraisal. Now what I'm going to discuss with you, I'm going to talk about the process of appraisal. Now the process of appraisal basically starts with setting the standards. Now my dear friends, if you all remember, right in the beginning of my lectures, I told you that there is a concept of controlling. So controlling is basically what? It's nothing but it's just taking corrective actions for the deviations in the company. So how do you decide about the deviations? So definitely there has to be some kind of benchmarking that has to be done, and on the basis of the benchmarking or on the basis of the standards that have been set, we go about it. So here in the process of performance appraisal, the first step that we talk about is that we have to set the standard. So now when we talk about the setting the standards is basically establishing this happens to be the very first step which is involved in the performance appraisal, and standards they are basically required to be fulfilled, or the standards are such that they will fulfill the mission and vision of the company. And basically we say that these standards are not arbitrary, standards are performance standards that are actually established through the job descriptions or maybe the handbooks or maybe by the operational manuals. So at the time of this setting of the standards, it is important to bear in mind that the business must set a company culture of expectation. What the company wants from its people, that must be very clear in the minds of the people, and these standards, they should be very clear, they should be easy to understand, the standards should be such that it can be quantified, and the standards should be such that the people can be judged, and of course the standards, they should be such that they can be adjusted on the basis of the changing business needs. Then second is like communication of the standards. Now communication of the standards basically means like supposing if I say the standard has been set, okay, that the company aims that okay that the 5 lakh rupees is the target for the month. So this is the standard that has been set. So communication of the standard basically means that okay it is basically the responsibility of the management to communicate the standards to all the employees of the company. So they at least they know okay what is expected, they are well informed, and they are basically clearly explained they are clearly explained to the employees. So and actually when the information is very crystal clear in the minds of the people, they know what is expected out of them, and there is role clarity, and so once there is role clarity, they know how they have to proceed with the attainment of the goals. Then The third one is related with the measuring the actual performance. Now, the most difficult part of any performance appraisal process is basically related with the measuring the actual performance of the employees. And when we talk about the actual performance, is basically the work which is done by the employees during that specific time period. So, here for example, if the standard was that okay, the target should be 5 lakh rupees, the target have been they have been communicated very clearly to the employees, then measuring the standard. For example, if the people have only attained, supposing 1,50,000, so here this is the actual performance that has been given by the employee. Then comparing the actual performance with the desired performance. The desired was actually 5 lakhs, but the actual is like 1,50,000. So here we know the result is very quite apparent, right? So actual performance is less than what was the anticipated one or the standard one. So actually with the help of the comparison, we can come to know about the deviations in the performances of the employees, because the standards have been actually set. So that's how we know that okay, the person has not performed well, and then the future course of action can be decided. Then we are discussing the result. Okay, then again when the rater and the ratee, they are sitting across the table, so they understand okay, what was expected out of you and what have you done, what were the loopholes, where have you gone wrong, or what steps would you take to improve your performance in the coming times. And lastly, the feedback, initiating corrective actions. Again, the actions can be, or the suggestions can be given by the rater to the ratee, or the ratee can say okay, maybe in coming times I may be performing like this or like that. So this is what we said, that the settings, the standards, they should be very clear, they should be easy to understand, quantified, adjustable, and of course we should know that okay, these standards, they are attainable or whether they are not attainable. Then these communicating the standards, people, they should know what is expected out of them. Then measuring is basically we are actually talking about where we are lacking, or what are the deviations, or whether we have performed as the company expected from them to do it. Then we know that any measuring of the performance is a very continuous process. It's just not one shot activity. So the performances, they go on, they keep on evaluating, again people perform, again they get evaluated, again people perform, again they evaluate. So this is how it goes on. That is why it is a kind of a continuous process. So these performance, they have to be properly defined by the management. And definitely when we are talking about the measuring the performances, a lot of review work is being done, monitoring is being done, keeping an eye whether the people are moving in the right direction of the attainment or no, or what are the bottlenecks they are facing, what kind of support can be given by the management, and of course what kind of techniques have to be adopted for the purpose of performance appraisal. So when we make a comparison, as I told you that we will be comparing the actual performance with the desired. So if the actual performance is greater than or more than the desired, so basically it means that okay, it's a positive indicator. Yani that means everything is a good condition. You know, like people have lived up to the expectation of the company, whatever the company wanted, they have attained. So supposing I have been talking about the target of 5 lakhs, so people have actually attained maybe 4 lakh rupees or 4,50,000 or maybe 5 lakh. They have touched the figure of 5 lakhs. So that means the person has performed well, and the purpose for which the person was kept, the person has attained that. Then actual performance is less than the desired, so this is a kind of a negative indicator. You can see this face also. That means the company is not happy with the performance of the ratee. The ratee has to work harder, the ratee has to put in more efforts to prove his or her mettle in coming time. Then if actual performance is equal to the desired performance, okay, but if it is more than 5 lakhs as I have been discussing, so definitely it is a positive sign, and then definitely the incentives and all the ways by which the company can motivate people, they will all fall in place. Then it includes recalling, evaluating, analysis of the employee performance. Suggestions can be made for the improvement. So this improvement will basically come when there are deviations. So if there are no deviations, so naturally no improvement. So if you are living up to the expectation of the company, you are performing as it is needed, So definitely we do not require much from you. So if there are shortfalls or if there are deviations, only then the action is actually needed. So basically what happens is, in the case of the performance appraisal, we are giving a chance to the employees to look at his or her strength and the weaknesses, to judge their own performance, their achievements, and see what they have actually performed. So in other words, what we can say that we have to make the company happy. We have to attain the goals at any point of time. So if we are able to attain the goals, so naturally it is a good situation. There's a lot of positivity. That means the company is performing well, the company is doing well, and we all should bear in mind that we always grow with the growing organization. So if the organization is growing, so definitely then only you can think about the growth and the career progression, or maybe the succession planning can come into play. Then when we are talking about the feedback, so feedback is very essential. Why are we talking about the feedback? Because if you have performed well, so okay, then you will be getting a pat on your back, and in case if there are shortfalls, or in case there are too much deviations between the actual and the desired, then definitely feedback has to be given. So we have to actually identify which are the problems which are faced by the ratee, why the ratee was not able to complete the task well in time, or why the targets were not attained. Then aim to provide solutions to the problems, to motivate, to help to correct the mistakes. So if any mistake has been committed by the ratee, then of course the ratee should know that okay, he or she has committed a mistake, so that the action can be taken. So all this feedback has to be handled properly. And definitely we have to understand that we have to give feedback in a proper way. So at times what happens, there are two kind of feedback, the negative feedback and the positive feedback. So if it is positive feedback, everything is good, but in case if it is a negative feedback, one has to bear in mind that the negative feedback has to be given in person only and not in front of everyone. So whenever the negative feedback or the constructive feedbacks are being rendered, they should be a combination of positive and negative. Data should be very objective. Why are you not performing, or what are the loopholes, what are the hindrances? This is the place that you have actually lacked. One should not use derogatory or harsh word, because I told you that the main purpose is to bring about a change in the behavior pattern, but not to harass any employee. Then highlight the importance of feedback. One should understand, why am I getting the feedback? So if people, they know why are they being given the feedback, only then they can analyze where they have gone wrong and what kind of corrective actions they should be taken for the person's improvement in the overall performance. So if at times people, they don't realize that where did I go wrong, so it is very essential that they have to be pinpointed, they have to be told, okay, this is the place where you went wrong, or this is the mistake that you have done, so that these mistakes are not repeated in future and they perform better. And then again, very important point, my dear friends, negative feedback should always be given in private or one-to-one basis only. Then in the case of ways of giving the positive feedback, okay, so definitely it's like more of the introspecting. It talks about the raters and review what best can be done, and not to take the criticisms too personally. And then we can always talk to the ratee, asking him how we can take the company to the next level. And of course we know that we do not have to make a very ugly exit. We have to give a person few suggestions to improve upon his work in coming life. Now coming very close to the end of my slides, one of the very important topic, again this chart is from my book only, as I keep telling you, HRM by Dr. Rakhi. There are certain limitations of a performance appraisal. Basically, we all know that performance appraisal is evaluating the employee's current and the past performance, which is related to his or her performance standards. But however, there are some common kind of limitations which are very apparent. The first one, if you see right from the top one, if we take it from here, the halo effect. So a person's outstanding in one area tend to receive outstanding or better than average rating in other areas as well. So when such a rating is given, this is known as a halo effect. So what is the meaning of halo effect, my dear friends? Like for example, if a person is there, Lord Krishna is there, so we always see that halo effect, okay, that there is a circle which is going on behind his head. So that is a kind of a halo effect. So here also, if the person has been performing well over the period of time, so we have that kind of tendency, or the biasness automatically comes into mind that okay, this person, Mr. X, oh, he or she must have performed exceptionally well, or he he or she would have been an exemplar, but at times that can prove wrong also. So this is one of the biggest limitation, that people, they actually judge people on the basis of that halo effect, that the outstanding work which has been done. We would like to have that kind of evaluation technique for that person. Then the second one is related with the biasness of the appraiser. Now basically the presence of halo effect in evaluation of employees, this is one of the biggest weakness, because a high rate is always given to the most favored employees, whereas unfriendly employees, they are always rated below the average. So this is the basically what happens is, this is the biasness of the appraiser. They will be giving high rating to the people who are in their good books and low rating to the people who are not in their good books, because of this halo effect, because they made their mental conditioning is such, okay, Mr. X is very, very good, so definitely he becomes the most favored employee, so he will be given better remarks. Then ambiguity in standard, at times what happens is like people are not very sure that what is expected out of them, so that clarity is actually missing. If the standards are very unclear, which the supervisors or the people they have to follow, then naturally we will not be able to get the desired results. So that is again one of the limitation of performance appraisal, that people, they are unaware about the standards that have been actually set by the companies. So that is why when we were talking about the process of standard, there was a point that these standards, they have to be properly communicated to the people so that they understand what is expected out of them. Then the next one, if you can see, it's all related with the few qualities which are actually measured. So what happens is that with the help of this performance appraisal, only few qualities can be measured. There can be some other kind of qualities also which at times it goes unnoticed. So we also know that my dear friends, that all individuals, they differ from each other in terms of background, values and behavior. So naturally, because of their differences, or maybe because of the diversity that we have in the company, it is not possible to measure all the qualities. Then the next limitation is related with the rating style of the person. So naturally what happens is that every evaluator has its own evaluation procedure or method for checking the performance of the individual. So for example, at times, like when we are in academics or when we used to be in school, there are few teachers who would be very, very strict in the evaluation of the copies or answer sheet. On the other hand, they could be some kind of lenient teachers also. So at times what happens is that lenient tendency, when people are very lenient in evaluating, so at times that is known as the positive leniency error. What do we call it as? We call it as positive leniency error. That means, okay, everything is being taken for granted, okay, you will be getting good grades. Whereas a strict tendency, when we are talking about the strict tendency, that is known as the negative. That is known as the negative. People who are strict, or those who are very having that strict tendency of evaluating people, they are known as basically the negative leniency error. So basically there are two kind of errors, one is positive, one is negative. So people who are very lenient, so they will be facing with the positive leniency error, and people who are very strict, they will be facing with the negative leniency error. Then another one of the limitation of performance appraisal is related with the central tendency. Now what happens in the central tendency is this is one of the most common error, my dear friends, which is actually committed in the performance appraisal. That central tendency basically means we are giving average markings. We are giving average markings or average rating to all the employees. So at times when we are assigning the average rating to all the employees, then there is a tendency of the rater to give average. So the person is not properly evaluating who is good, who is not good. So here, without actually appraising the person or condemning them or finding out where are the loopholes, he or she, the rater, will give the average marking. Okay, everyone is good, everyone is fine, everyone has done well. So this is not the way of doing the performance appraisal, because in a group of people there would be few of them who would have done exemplary well, and there would be few of them who would have not done that kind of work. And then lastly, we have got something known as the similarity error. This one, the smaller the circle that you can see on the screen. So basically here in the similarity error, the evaluator tries to look at those qualities in subordinates which he or himself possesses. So basically what does it mean? This basically means, okay, that if I am good with certain thing, I am looking forward for that same kind of quality. For example, if I have the habit of empathy, I can empathize, so I shall be looking forward that kind kind of empathy in the other person also. Or if I am a rater, if I am punctual, I shall be looking forward to that kind of punctuality aspect in people. So having that kind of similarity effect, so that is the one kind of biasness that comes in the effective appraisal. That is one of the bottlenecks that comes on the way of the performance appraisal, because people, they will be looking forward for the traits which they themselves possess, and in case if they do not find those traits in the ratee, they would not be giving a good remarks to the person. So my dear friends, this was all related with the limitations of the performance appraisal. So as you can see on the screen also, the halo effect is all related with the unfair lenses. People believe that okay, there is something good, so most favored people, they will be getting positive remarks, and the negative people, they will be getting negative remarks. So at times there can be some kind of biasness, ambiguity in the standards, when people, they don't know what is expected out of them. The quality, all the qualities of the people, they are not actually evaluated. Then they, as I was just talking about the leniency effect, that the positive leniency, that means if you are too lenient with your appraisal system, that then there will be positive leniency error, and the vice versa. And then average rating or similarity effect. So definitely the rater will be looking forward for the qualities which the person, he himself possesses. If he is able to find those qualities in the person, then definitely the person will be getting high rating, or the vice versa. So this was all related with the limitations of the performance appraisal. So my dear friends, I hope by this time you are well aware that what is the meaning of performance appraisal, what are the objectives that it serves, and definitely what is the process that one follows, that is before the appraisal, during the appraisal, after the appraisal, and what is the process of the appraisal in terms of setting the standards, communicating the standards, or making a comparison between the standard and the actual performances, and then going deep down and analyzing where the things have gone wrong, or what kind of best support can be given by the management to the people. And above all, we also know that what are the different types of feedback, that is the positive feedback and the negative feedback. But again, one thing that has to be borne in mind, that the negative feedback has to be given in one-to-one situation only. It has to be given privately. That is a kind of a constructive feedback, whereas the positive feedback can be given in front of everyone. And lastly, what we discussed, it was all related with the limitations of performance appraisal. Basically, limitations, basically it's all related with the biasness of the rater, the biasness that comes from the rater side, similarity effect, or maybe the standards are not well communicated to the people, so people, they don't know what is to be attained, so on and so forth. So I hope that the concept of performance appraisal, they are very, very crystal clear to you. So thank you so much for watching this video, and stay tuned for the next one in my next lecture. Thank you so much.